everyone, it's Jai452, back again inside the land of cosplay, rummaging around and seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week, I don't have just one special guest. No, I thought I'd be great to you guys and give you two special guests. This week we have the amazing Elizabeth Rage. And I know I'm going to completely mess this up.
Right.
Alex...
Drastal,
sorry.
Alright.
Sometimes the shortening is the hardest to say.
I know, right?
Awesome. So first off, guys, how are you and how are you doing today?
We're doing pretty good.
We've kind of like already established that you guys are doing good for the pre-interview chat, and there's a lot of that going on. But I think we'll just jump right in there, and I'm going to ask you both, when did you both first start cosplaying? Both as individuals and then together.
Sure. I started cosplaying in 2015. I am originally from New York, in New York City, and then I came out here we're in California right now, and I moved out here in 2015 and kind of just went full force into cosplay. When I first moved out there, my friend and I at the time decided, all right, we have time for one hobby, and it can either become a competitive Pokemon player or cosplay. And then both of us as actors had decided, like, it's probably going to be like more lucrative to our careers as a whole to go into cosplay. That might just mesh a little better. So we said we just play with Pokemon like normally now, and not competitively, and went full force into cosplay and haven't really stopped since.
Awesome. And when did you guys first start cosplaying together?
It's kind of the same answer as when he first started cosplaying.
Well, I mean, like, I grew up like in San Diego, so San Diego Comic-Con was it was not as big when I first started going. I mean, like, I feel old. Like, I'm 29, and like, so like as a kid, like me and my dad used to go, because my dad was a big, he had a bunch of comic books from when he was a kid, and so my dad would take me and my brother to Comic-Con, and we used to be able to go when you could still stand outside and get tickets. Like now, nowadays, like, they sell out instantly online, and like it was also like back in the days where you could like walk around the exhibit hall and you didn't feel like cattle being like swept away somewhere, because you could actually move. But like, I mean, even as like a kid, I still like, I used to wear like I saw people, I used to sell the Klingons. And like all the people who like originally like were cosplaying, like you'd see a bunch of Klingons, you'd see Star Trek people, you'd see Star Wars people, you'd see Stormtroopers places. When it wasn't like a thing yet, it was just people who just showed up in costume, and you're like, wow, those people are cool or like weird or like whatever people thought. And I was like, I want to do that, and like I wore like my Halloween costume one year to Comic-Con, and it was like this weird like roby looking. I looked like a ring wraith, except I was purple. Okay. And like I had like a belt that I made out of like a chain and a wooden sword and like a black cape. And like my dad thought it was hilarious because because you couldn't see my face or like really that I had like my body because it was all hidden under cloaks and robes and stuff. So I would go stand next to like booths and things and just stand really still, and people thought like eventually that I was just like part of the booth, and they'd come up and be like, oh, this is really cool, and then I'd move, and then they'd freak out. But
it's like, funny that you should mention the ring wraiths, because I have 3 Lord of the Rings stories that I can share with you guys that I think you'll find hilarious. First off is I was at Comic-Con one year when I think it was Sam from
Yes.
Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the actor Sean Astin was there, and he was like round the corner of where they had all the celebrities and the kind of like celebrity wing. And I remember seeing these two at the time. Obviously, I was like, oh, these two cosplayers, and it didn't dawn on me what they were dressed as. I just thought they were dressed as like a Renaissance couple. And then I seen she was wearing the Even Star like Arwen's necklace, and I was like, Aragorn and Legolas. And it was like 2 seconds of me, well, 2 seconds before me actually going up and asking them, what is it you guys are actually dressed as? So I was like, ooh, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
It's like, it just goes over your head, then you're like, how did I not get that?
Yeah, and the worst of it is, at that point I'd already started playing like a tabletop session that was based in the world of Lord of the Rings. So I was like, I really should have known that. So yeah, I was feeling kind of awkward at that point. One of the other ones was at the same con, there was a little baby who could not have been like maybe 2 to 3 months old, and the mother had dressed them up as a hobbit. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. And it's like, you can't compete against that in the cosplay competitions. It's just...
You lose children.
Always.
You can't.
You have to do, like, if you're judging a cosplay competition and there's children competing in the same categories as adults, you have to just be like, and, crowd favorite award goes to the child. The Halloween costume.
Because there's no way.
Like, yes, they are cute, but this person spent, like, 800 hours crafting their leather armor, and you cannot take the award away from them.
So my next question for you is, who or what inspired you guys to get into cosplay?
For me, it was just like, that was like me wearing just like Halloween costumes to a convention. Like, I think the first cosplay I ever did was when my English teacher gave me the Watchmen novel. Graphic novel, and I really liked Rorschach, and I went to Comic-Con that year dressed as Rorschach, and it was the year they announced they were making the movie.
Oh, cool.
So that was really cool. And but I didn't, it was just kind of like an on and off thing. It wasn't until I met this person in January and because I'd always wanted to really jump into cosplay, because I'd wear a costume where I do medieval reenactment and stuff like that, so I would wear all of my armor to a convention or something like that, but I never really cosplayed characters from shows or movies. It was always just my original stuff, and I'd always feel bad when people were like, oh my god, you look so cool, what are you? And I'd be like, or what are you from? And I'd be like, nothing. I'd be like, nothing. And I'd be like, it's just what I wear. And so for
you gotta
me,
make something up, create your own thing.
I know, but it was I love just, and it's because I'm also an actor and stuff like that, and it's just I love just being different characters and being able to be your favorite character. It's when you watch these shows and you watch movies and anime, and you're just you fall in love with certain characters or you relate with them, and you want to not only be that character, but also just kind of it's almost like showing respect to that character, because you want to make your costume look the best, and you want to make it as accurate as possible. And so that's what really drew me to it, was just, and also just I love wearing costumes. Halloween was my favorite holiday.
It's always been one of my favorite holidays as well, and it really was to get to dress up and not be yourself for at least one night. Yes. I think that was what the fun of it was, Plus, there was the bonus getting candy and such so it was yay, candy, yum. Probably the dentists in the audience will be going, no. So, Liz, what was your first cosplay? Because we've heard a bit about what Alex's first cosplay was. I'd be very interested to hear what your first cosplay was that you did.
My first actual cosplay was Sasha from Attack on Titan, Potato Girl. And I had gone, the first ever convention I had been to was New York Comic Con, I think 2014. And I just went in my Attack on Titan jacket and jeans and the white shirt, and I wore my clip-in bangs, and my hair was all brown at the time. So, and then I just walked around and got to see all of the cosplayers, and now actually remembering seeing cosplayers I now know and I'm friends with at their booths back then. And then that was also the first ever cosplay photo shoot I did as well. I did the full costume with the straps, with the 3D MG and everything, and like in a forest, and actually got to shoot that. So Sasha was definitely my first cosplay, but my first real, like, I'm gonna make something and like go to a convention was a Lady Hades, so a gender bend Hades cosplay.
Oh, it's my favorite.
It does not exist anymore.
Her wig looks so cool.
And it was like full body paint, like it's giant blue wig that like went up to here, and you know, this dress that I had finished the night before with like the tape and Sharpies, but which is still something I do. But
I'm pretty sure like that particular one that you're mentioning is on your Instagram, because I'm pretty sure I've seen it on your Instagram at one point, and I was like, that is an awesome ladies.
No, it doesn't exist anymore. We took it apart to make another one and like use it as a pattern, and then never did that, so it just doesn't exist anymore. Like the base of the dress, but I hadn't at the time. I was like, how did I even put the blue on this dress? I do not remember. Now I could probably do it. It's great. I've learned a lot in the past 3 years about sewing and craftsmanship, but yeah, I was going by my big thing back then. I was like, all right, if I get two, like a spandex dress, a back and a front, if I wear a corset underneath it, it looks like it has a lot of structure, and I worked really hard. So that was how I made everything. I still do that sometimes.
Awesome.
The tricks of
Yeah.
So you were mentioning there about people that you've met that you're now friends with that were cosplayers prior to you, prior to you like meeting them, kind of thing. Can you maybe name drop some of those people?
For sure. Actually, it's really funny. I moved out to Southern California in like the Orange County area, so next to Disneyland, like with the intent purpose of like befriending and like getting to know and like work with all of the Disney cosplayers back then, which were like Tracy Hines, Leo Camacho, a bunch of other ones. And like now, like we're really good friends. We hang out at cons, we win on projects together, we do photo shoots for each other like all the time. And it's really funny how stuff like that works, and you know, you can form these friendships just through a common bond over like a thing that you like. It's really cool.
Was there any of those particular people that you mentioned there that you were following just as you were getting into cosplay, like on social media, or maybe just like you seen them and kind of slightly idolized them a little?
For sure. And like it was really cool, like especially with like Tracy, like I had followed her work on Tumblr for years, and like honestly, like she is definitely like one of the things that inspired me to get into costuming and was introduced to cosplay in general. Because I first heard of cosplay as like I was looking up how to make an Ariel bra, like a seashell bra, and I came across like cosplay.com, and I was like, oh, okay, so if I Google cosplay after the thing that I want to look up, then I get pictures of people. This is in like 2010. I like get pictures of people wearing costumes, not just like pictures of the character or pictures of a store-bought costume, but I get pictures of actual people doing things. I'm like, that's cool. Okay, I'll add that to my Google search, and then like from there and there, it just like grew into this giant thing. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's awesome to, and like I've told them this too. I was like, you know, we're friends now, but like, you know, you have a lot to do with, you know, why I'm here, and like why and like other friends like Kimba Sprite is another one. She was the first like Sasha cosplayer I'd ever seen, and she was the first cosplayer I ever followed on Facebook. And you know, we're friends now too, and it's really cool to be like, no, like I owe you like my career right now, is because like I saw this stuff, was inspired to like also do that, and like thank you for existing.
Alex, kind of same question to you. Is there any particular person, other than obviously the person to your right? I think, is it your right?
It's Merit in the Skype. Yeah.
See, that's one of the fancy things that I have to do of yours. I have to remember different time zones and what person's right is my left and my right is their left. So other than the person right next to you, is there any other kind of cosplayers that you followed on social media that you have maybe met and have become really good friends with?
What's funny is like like I didn't even have an Instagram before like this year. So, like I was in the like I right out of high school I was in the military and I was in the Air Force and they like that was like the time when like Instagram and like even like Facebook, like my parents were like, you need to get a Facebook so we can keep in touch with you, and I was like, fine. So like when I was in Japan I got a Facebook. Cause I was just like, I don't know, I felt so weird about like social media and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't need this. Like, so like I didn't actually like I had heard about people, like the big name people. Like I had heard about like Yaya Han and like Jessica Negri and stuff like that. But I'd never actually like gone online and like followed anybody or done any of that just because like it wasn't what I was doing. Like I played like video games and stuff like that, and like I like when all the big social media stuff came out, like I was overseas in the military, so like it wasn't even like it was around me. So when I came back to the States and there was all this big stuff going on with like Instagram and Tumblr and all this stuff, I was like, it was so foreign to me. So it was really funny, like me getting into it now and just being like, oh, like I never thought I'd need this, and now it's like my day-to-day life. So to answer your question, like I didn't even know anybody until like I started. Now I'm just like meeting all these people, and I mean it is really cool. Like I think there is one person who I knew about before I met them, and that was Leon Shiro.
Ah.
I knew who he was, and I had seen him all of his stuff, and I was following him before I met him. And I met him just like a few weeks ago at E3.
Awesome. If he's watching this, he's definitely one of the people I'd love to interview because he's such an amazing cosplayer and he's so dedicated to what he's doing.
Well, like
he's a really cool guy.
He himself is his own character. Like he's just a really cool guy. He loves his fans. He's outgoing. You know, he's silly. He's just fun to be around, and like it was really a pleasure to meet him, and for him to like. Talk to me the way he did, and it was just really cool. And that was like the first time I think I'd ever really met somebody who I knew and was following, and was like, oh my god, that's this person. So yes, that is the one person that I actually knew about before I met them.
And it's always such a fun thing when you like see a person in person for the first time that you're like, you've only ever existed in this small box on my phone.
Yeah.
I think I was like that the first time I did an interview with some of the guys from the States, because I've been doing these interviews now for 2 years, essentially, and it's taken us 2 years to get to, at this point in time, 92 videos, guys. But the first person when I got into cosplay that I started following, because my first ever cosplay was a gender bent Harley Quinn.
Oh, fun.
And oh my god, that was so much fun doing that. I had such a blast. Great memories, and everybody keeps bugging me about it. They're like, when are you going to do Harley Quinn again? And I'm like, I don't know, I kind of want to go on and do other cosplays. Like, I've done Poison Ivy since then. I've done Elle from Death Note. I've done, just recently I did Zachary Zatara. So yeah, I've kind of done other characters, but everybody wants to see the gender bent Harley. But when I first started kind of doing or getting the idea for cosplay, the first person I kind of started looking at for inspiration was one of your friends, Liz, Chris Fillon. Yeah. And I remember being so starstruck when I interviewed him. I was like, you've only really ever existed on YouTube, and I'm now talking to you. That
it's a really cool
surreal.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting a few people that I've met, interviewed and met at cons. So that's always really, really, really cool, is to get to see them in person and be like, oh, I love your costume. How did you make it?
Yeah.
The general conversation between any cosplayers is, hey, how are you? Love the costume. Mm-hmm. How did you get this done?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question for you guys is, what has been the most challenging cosplay that you have done to date, both from the making of the costume as well as the acting side. So when we're talking about the acting side, just to kind of clarify for the audience at home, cosplay isn't just putting on a costume. Sometimes there is acting involved in it, and that can be doing the voice of the character, or just moving how the character might move, or acting how they would act in any type of social situation. So from the acting standpoint, guys, who or what has been the most hardest cosplay that you've done to date?
Oh god. It'd really have to be the E3 one, because I helped make a lot of like the props and stuff for the because we made a bunch of costumes for Bandai Namco and Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
And so not only was it just really hard because we had so much to do and and it was a lot of work, but I think the hardest character to like embody is like a fighting game character, because they don't really have a character. Like, because you're like I can memorize like the lines that they say and the poses that they do, but they don't have like a huge backstory or like a really character progression. They're kind of just a voice and and lines
and button mashing.
Yeah. That's really funny. I was at E3 dressed as Siegfried from Soul Calibur in like their like private area, playing Soul Calibur, playing Siegfried. It was like this weird like Siegfriedception thing going on. And
yeah, in like the bottom.
And I'm sitting, it was like the first time I'd ever played the game, and I'm just like button mashing like my way to victory. And it was so much fun, but it was just so like somebody walked by and it was like they were like, "Is that Siegfried playing Siegfried?" And I almost lost it.
It was great. He was half of his armor. He still had the wig on, but he had the boots like Soul
and the
Calibur
big shoulder
hat.
pads and everything.
You had the hat on. Too,
yeah,
like,
the Soul Calibur hat over the wig.
He looked like a bro Siegfried.
Yeah. I think that was the hardest one. Like the other ones are like, because going to I think just a separate question. Like my favorite one that I've done so far, that was the easiest to like have fun with and portray. And like I helped make this costume. I mean, like Elizabeth and a friend of ours, Lennox Knight, they wanted to do this group, and they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I was like, heck yeah, because I just love My Hero Academia. And there was when we did the Pussycats, and like I helped like cut out all the fur, do a bunch of stuff. Like I did a bunch of like manual labor stuff for it, but I can't.
You were still starting. You hadn't made a lot of stuff.
I know. I hadn't really made anything at that time, so like I wasn't as skilled as like I guess I am now. But like wearing that costume is so much fun, because not only
first of all you're in a skirt.
First of all I'm in a skirt and like 6-inch heel boots. So it's already just ridiculous. And then I get to because he's just this character who's all about like fitness and training the, training the UA students and it's so like I actually had a push-up contest at Fanime with a friend of ours who does Bakugo, and he's like really in good shape too. So it was just a really cool and he took video of it and he posted it, and it's awesome. His name's Lawrence Iwood. Mm-hmm. And he does fantastic. Like he just looks like an anime character. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's like that's what I think is just so much fun about cosplay, is like you get to be your favorite character, and it's fun when you get to go to a con and you don't break character. And like I was finding like every Deku I could find and yelling at them and telling them to give me push-ups, and it was just so silly. But like. That's what I love so much. So if like I wanted to segue into like what's my favorite one to do so far, it would be that one.
Awesome. And yourself?
It's an interesting thing, because the hardest costumes I've ever made have not been for myself. As a professional cosplayer, one of the things that I do is I take commissions for companies like Bandai for side games, things like that. And last year I had to make, there's a game called Shadowverse, and they made a very good marketing decision. It was actually like, it seemed ridiculous, but they have this one character that's kind of just become a meme in the game's community, and it's called the Ultimate Carrot. And it is this like really annoying card that like once it's played on the field, like it is really hard to get rid of in game. So it's this just annoying giant carrot that keeps popping up, and like you play it in like some of the monster decks. And they were like, "Can you make this?" And I was like, "Sure, lol." And I ended up having to make a like 7-foot tall giant carrot mascot, and in a month, and then fly it to Seattle for PAX West. Like, personally, because there was no way to ship it. Like, it had to be, like, I got it down into 2 bags that were just hit the parameters of, like, what you could fly as a checked bag without overages. And we shipped it off to Seattle, and it traveled. It went to Paris Games Week, it went to PAX Australia, and then also to a Japanese convention as well. So it's an international cosplay that I didn't unfortunately get to go with it, but it was definitely the hardest thing that I've ever made. I'm very glad I didn't have to wear it though. It was very heavy, very sweaty, and the poor soul who had to be inside of it that entire time. But it was really cool. It was giant. The eyes moved. It had these like giant like I don't know what are these called, antenna that were like the green part of the carrot. Yeah, it was like
the green part of the carrot, but it was like antenna on the. It was really.
And this just like disgustingly creepy face that would just, and the eyes would follow you because they moved, and like it was controlled from the inside. That was definitely the hardest thing I've ever made. I take it really easy with my own costumes. A lot of times, I spent like 6 months on my Saber costume and like getting it because she's my favorite character from anime. So I really took the time to make that costume exactly how I wanted it, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. But like that's definitely the hardest costume for me. And Saber's fun because she's just very stoic and serious, except for when there's food, and then you can just like be like happy and cute and like eat a bunch of food. So, but she also has like a gigantic sword that I have the one from Man at Arms, which is really awesome. And so it's a real sword forged from 13th century artifacts.
It's heavy,
and it's about 20 pounds, I'd say, right?
It feels hard. It's hard for me to hold it out, and like that's a heavy sword.
It's a heavy.
It
sword.
might be like 35.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just because it's long. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'd have to weigh it.
Yeah.
It should be a good thing to know.
Yeah, we should. We should do that
later. Well, I've been lucky enough not to need any giant swords or anything for any of my cosplays, but I have bumped into a few people who've had giant swords for theirs. I'm pretty sure at a Comic-Con I was at, I bumped into an Aerith and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, and he had the big Buster sword.
Yeah.
And at the most recent Comic-Con I was at, there was a girl who was playing an anime character that had a kind of curved Buster sword, but it was like a curved handle as well as a curved blade. And I was like, I really like that. And she says to me, I'm really scared that I'm going to hit anyone with it. I already hit somebody once with it. And I was like, shh, don't worry about it. That happens at a con. You know, because it's inevitable that you're going to bump into somebody or something. So there's that. So my next question for you guys is, and this is more so in your own opinion, similar to the last question, what is the most difficult cosplay character or thing to cosplay as, both from the making of a costume and the acting side? In regards to both yourselves, so something that you guys would look at and go, I might need a specific skill set if I'm making that costume, or B, I might need to research the character a lot more. And what is something that you guys would look at and maybe advise other people, not so much against doing it, but taking their time with it? So let's start in regards to yourselves. What do you guys consider a costume that would be rather difficult to do from the making of the actual costume point?
It's funny because it's like the opposite for us, most likely, because she's really good at work. This makes kind of like a good team, actually. She's really good when it comes to like sewing and patterning clothing, and I've, gotten really good at doing the foam side of stuff, like making props, making armor, even making things out of leather and metal and stuff like that, because I used to do that for like the medieval stuff that I do, and so like if I were to look at a costume that had a lot of like needlework and sewing work, I'd be like, Liz, I need your help, or sorry, Elizabeth, I need your help, and if she were to like look at something, I think that had a lot of like armor and foam work and a lot of that, she'd be like, Alex, help me.
Yeah.
I think that's
is there
a
any
good
particular like character or creature that you guys would just both kind of look at and go, we need a different skill set than what we both currently have?
Not necessarily a different skill set. It's just a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like you can do. There is a way. Cosplayers are great because there is always a way to figure out anything. Some things just cost more money than others. Like for me, one of my dream costumes, I guess it's a costume, to make would be, I don't know if you've seen the Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra. Mm-hmm. I want to make Appa. I want to make Appa on a golf cart, and I want it to be life-sized, and I want to stick children on top of it dressed as Aang, Katara, and Sokka and Toph, and they can ride on top of it, and I basically want it to be a parade float sized of a sky bison. And
giant.
I only need an electric golf cart and about $10,000 to do it.
Yeah.
So money's money. Like time and skill can be acquired. Money can be acquired too. Yeah, but
money and time is honestly like the biggest factor of not being able to do a cosplay.
I think the things that scare me the most, though, not necessarily like the sewing stuff, would be like the very like monstery type stuff, like organic, like stuff. Yeah, like making like big organic, like prosthetic-y type things, like even like if I was looking at like if I were to like use Soul Calibur as an example. Like Nightmare, how he has like all these like this huge like very very organic like arm, but it's also it's slightly human-esque, slightly like demon and all this stuff. Like making stuff like that is intimidating to me.
See, not for me. So that I'm like, this is great. It doesn't have to look like anything. It just has to look gross and like sinewy and like Whereas, like, I'm like, oh, that has to be, like, really shiny, clean armor. I do not want to make that.
I think I've just kind of, like, started on your side, lads, because I'm more into the fabric side of things, and I'm like, okay, so I can easily do this, I can stitch this, and I can do that. And if I'm looking at something armor, I'm, like, totally lost. And a lot of people I've spoken to are like, you would use Worbla for this kind of thing, and I'm like, Worbla?
Okay.
Worbla
is the devil. Worbla is the devil. Some people, I have coined the term, they are Worbla wizards or Worblocks. It is some kind of magic that they do in order to control this substance. I do not have that. I am a squib when it comes to Worbla. I cannot do it. I can make fabric do pretty much whatever I want. And I would so much rather take foam and cover it in fabric to make it look like leather armor, or just use leather, or like any of that, than it is. It's also very expensive. There are other thermoplastics out there. It is good for very specific things, but I would actually say, like, I have friends, like, we have this friend who's like 16 years old, can make anything out of foam.
He's like a savant.
He's like a foam savant, like, for real. I think he's actually coming over today, but to work on foam stuff. But yeah, I was very taken in by the prospect of Worbla when I first started as well, and I was like, "This is cool. This is what makes me a cosplayer. I can make." It doesn't. It is very. The learning curve is very high and unnecessarily so.
It's also very like.
The risk is so high. If you mess it up, like, yes, you can remelt it and use it again, but it's so expensive. It's like $80 for a sheet.
Well, also, it's like if you're, especially like the cons here, a lot of them are during the summer.
Oh, and it's so hot.
And since Worbla reacts to heat, it's like unless you're in the AC all the time, even then, like in like
Just your
the
body
hall,
heat.
your body heat, can actually start to affect the Worbla, and it's like you spend all this time on something and then your body melts it, and it's like, what the like.
Yeah, that's happening with our sacred armor a little bit, so we need to redo a lot of that for the next convention.
I actually have a kind of funny story for you guys, and this just kind of goes to show how weird the climate is between our two countries. So, the year that I met Sean Astin, I was actually cosplaying as a gender bent Poison Ivy. And first time I've ever seen anybody do this, because like I checked online for various gender bent cosplays, like Poison Ivy in particular, and I've never seen a male gender bent Poison Ivy up until that particular point. And I was like, oh, so I'm going to be like one of the first people ever to do this. I kind of slightly have to do it justice. And I was like, right, what can I do? What can I base it off of? Because obviously I can't slip myself into a one piece, because that's a gender bend and it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So I was thinking, right, what incarnations have I seen of Poison Ivy? Being a Batman fan, I've probably seen every incarnation possible. And I was like, I really like the look that Uma Thurman had as she first rose as Poison Ivy from the horrible Batman and Robin movie, which we don't talk about.
I agree with you. It's an awful movie. It's fun to watch if you just want to laugh at it.
Yeah. So the kind of inspiration I took from that was when she first rose, she was wearing this kind of like ripped green shirt and almost like stone coloured pair of shorts, and I was like, I can do that. That is easy as hell. So I got like fake ivy, like woved it into the clothing, had like handcuffs on my like wrists for it, and it looked relatively okay. When did I do this cosplay? Yes, in the middle of August in the UK, which is one of the coldest times of the year because we're almost in December. So I thought, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be warm in the convention centre, yada, yada, yada. The entire time I walked around for 7 hours in absolute freezingness. I was so cold.
What happened to New York Comic Con? It's been pretty cold, but it's rare that we're chilly in California.
Yeah.
There's also just not very many conventions in the winter.
Yeah.
And you just choose your big winter cosplays, like the stuff from Avatar, like Princess Yue, like, any of the characters from Naruto have like big jackets and stuff like that.
I know how you feel though, like, because I was, when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in England for 2 years. So I know. Yeah, I know. It's like
funny actually. Funny story that goes with that.
90% it's gloomy and rainy 90% of the year, and then part of that time it also snows, but the snow doesn't last, and it just turns to ice the next day, and but the one thing is like when it is sunny, like that 1 week out of the year, it's really pretty because the yellow flowers and everything over the hills. It was really pretty when it was sunny, but like the rest of the time, it's literally just like it looks like a like every time they depict like Jack the Ripper and it's dark and it's gloomy and there's fog everywhere. That's just England 90% of the time.
Well, he can say don't worry, Liz. He can say whatever he wants about England because I live in Scotland. So,
I thought you lived in. Oh, well, there we go. We can make fun of England all we
can
want.
make fun of England.
You're not going to win the World Cup, England. I'm going to get hate for that. But okay, so funny story with the Poison Ivy thing. Even though I was cold the entire time, a friend of mine was dressed up as a gender bent Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she had this massive leather coat on. When I seen her, I ran right up to her and gave her this massive hug and whispered to her, I'm so friggin' cold, can I borrow your jacket for 5 minutes? And she's like, oh, but I don't... Like, before I even hugged her, she's like, I don't want to ruin your cosplay. And I'm like, I don't care, I'm cold, I need body heat. And then she's like, but then my cosplay would be ruined if you had my jacket. And I was like, that's not my problem. And the best of it, me and her are so good friends. Like, she totally got what I was saying at that point. She knew I was cold. But the second half of that story is we always get one professional photo done if we like at the conventions. And when it was my turn to go up, the photographer said, okay, who are you cosplaying as? And I told him Poison Ivy. He's like, well, can you strike a somewhat seductive pose? And I'm like, okay. So that I was kind of like running through my head, how do I do a seductive pose but still maintain masculinity at the same time? So I finally got some kind of pose going. Somebody decides, like a member of staff working the event decides, let's go to the door, big double glass doors, opens them up, like big gust of wind, and my seductive pose goes from being all seductive and fluid to completely body rigid.
Oh.
And I'm like, no. And I did actually say to the photographer, do you mind if we do that again, please? And he's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So I was like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. Weather is definitely something that you gotta look out for. We recently tried to do just weather and just natural conditions in general. We recently tried to do a desert shoot, and your little Toyota Camry did not have fun in the sand.
My car almost got stuck in the sand.
It did get stuck in the sand.
Oh, no, it did get stuck in the sand.
A nice man with a pickup truck pulled us out.
Yes.
But
that was if you saw like the recent photos I did of like the Soldier 76, Fallout 76.
They were supposed to be even cooler.
They were supposed to be like up in this other place with like rock formations and stuff, but we couldn't get there because my car can't handle the sand dunes.
Yeah. I was like, if my little juke the last time I went up there could make it up there on 3 shitty tires and a donut, I thought your like brand new Camry would have been fine, but apparently not.
So in regards to other people, what are some kind of things that you guys would maybe not so much tell them not to do, but kind of push them in a direction by saying, okay, you might want to spend time working on the acting side of it or building up your skill set in order to make the cosplay? So is there any particular characters that you guys would single out and just say you might want to just work on that before you delve right in?
Like for me, like someone who's like recently kind of like actually really started out, I would say try to do things that have a little bit of everything but not too much of one thing if you're just starting to do it. Because that way you step into like, all right, I need to make a foam piece for this. I need to learn to sew a little bit, and I got to do this like thing with like, or maybe I have to go search for like pieces or stuff like that from like a thrift store and then like modify it. And so like try to pick, like if you're just starting out, maybe pick a character that like, if you have a skill set already, that like has a lot of that skill set, so it makes you feel confident because you're doing the thing that you know how to do, but then has elements of the things that you don't know how to do, so that you can learn it. But if you screw it up, it's not like a huge deal, and you have time to like practice it and redo it, or you know, it doesn't feel like crud. I couldn't make this armor piece. I don't know how to do it. I have to make an entire suit of armor. And then you start to stress out, and then you can't do it, and then you just be like, I quit. You know, and like, so it's just, I would suggest do something that tests the waters of something maybe you don't know how to do, but that way you learn, and you're like, and then you realize maybe like, that wasn't so hard. I can do that, and then the next project you do something that maybe has more armor or more sewing or whatever you're not as good at. This definitely helped me.
Yourself, Les, is there any particular characters that you would maybe say to people, okay, you might need to build up a skill set or learn more about the character?
I think, you know, body painted characters are always a little more difficult and requires just, you know, a certain amount of, not necessarily knowledge, but just practice. I would say if it's any cosplay that has a like specific makeup look, to just practice that like spend a little extra time and money to get extra makeup so that you can do a couple test runs and figure out how you're going to seal your makeup too, and if it's going to last an entire day. If you have the time, do a full like cost test of your full look. And like that's actually super important just in general, especially with armor. If you have the time, like put everything on, walk around your house, jump around, like
see what
falls off because something's gonna fall off always. And that's to fix that while you have time to fix that. But definitely makeup is one of the things that I'd say practice. Take the time, practice exactly what you want to do or how you want to look. Get as close as you can to how you want to look for your finished cosplay. And then, because you can get a lot of like practice photos and like people like seeing that too. Like seeing your progress of like, this is a test, I'm really excited to do the real thing. But it also makes you feel a lot better when it's the day of the convention and there's so many other things going through your mind that you already know how you're going to do your makeup and how, like, especially if it's something that's body paint or like is a prosthetic or is something that's like weird. Like,
it's one less thing to be like, I'm doing it for the first time.
I mean,
God.
like, I have literally put on a prosthetic eye in the car on the way to the con.
I remember that.
That
thing from what. And it came out great.
It worked.
It came out great. I waited to do the eyeliner until we parked. But,
I have to admit, I'm currently not wearing a hat, but if I was wearing one, I would say I will take my hat off to you if you can drive a car and add prosthetics.
Oh no, I was driving
okay.
a car.
Yeah.
Just to take your thought, somebody driving adding a prosthetic.
I had a third eye prosthetic that I had to completely put on London on the way to the con. So.
Sorry?
Oh, I was saying I had a third eye prosthetic that had to be put on, blended, and like made up with the rest of my face, like on the way to the convention. So,
as far as the body paint, I have had a few people who have done full body paint before. A friend of mine, super bodybuilder Matt, has done one of James Cameron's avatars, so like the Navi ones, and it's like full blue body paint. In addition to that, Shalena from Cause of Commotion Cosplay has done, and I know I'm going to mess up the name, is it Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Guardians? Yes.
Yep. She's done her before, and she's very, like, when she's in her Gamora cosplay, she is almost the spit of the actress, which is so scary. Like, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but whenever I come across cosplayers that are so like the actor that they're portraying, if they're portraying that type of cosplay, it scares me a little. Because, like, you don't know if you're actually speaking to the actor.
Because sometimes you're not really ready for it. You're like, oh, I'm going to walk up and say hi, and they're going to, like, say this. They're going to, like, respond to me as a human being, and then they're the character, and you're like, whoa. You know, but it's cool at the same time. Like, at WonderCon, I met this. Did you ever watch the movie The Fifth Element?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy did this really good Zorg, and he had the gun. He did the whole, like, you know, half hair with the. He had everything, and I was like, oh my god, you look so cool. And he turns around in just total Zorg character and starts talking to me like Zorg, and he's just like. I was dying because I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And I think if you can, like, especially like if you're like a big, you know, if people know who you are and you're like one of those cosplayers that, like, if you can also be the character, it just makes people's day. Because, like, I know when I run into them, I'm just like, oh, like, it's just that much cooler. Because I'm like, you know, I'm not just talking to the person, then it almost feels like you're talking to, you know, Gamora, or you're talking to Zorg, or you're talking to whoever the character is, and it just, as like a nerd and as someone who loves that stuff, it's just, you get giddy, and it's just like, oh my god, this is so cool. And so I always like, if you can, you know, if it's something that, like, because not everybody has that skill set of being able to portray a character, and that's fine. But if you can, it's so much fun, and, like, it really makes people's days, and it puts smiles on people's faces when they feel like they're talking to their favorite character, not just looking at them.
Well, given that you kind of brought us onto that subject, let's go on to that particular question. Is there any particular cosplay that you guys have done that you've got the biggest fan reaction from? And I'm not just talking like small kids or fans of the genre, I'm talking all across the board.
Probably the Pussycat.
Tiger, yeah.
Yeah. when we do the Wild Wild Pussycats, like we do their full intro like sequence, like we have like voice lines and stuff. We'll walk around like in a group, like my character is the like leader of the group, so I literally like we have 7 poses that we do. And she'll be like Pussycat formation 2, and then
we'll all hop into
like exactly like go into that position. And that's definitely the most fun.
Yes.
It'll be interesting because we're down 1 Pussycat for half of the day at our next con that we're doing.
But it makes sense.
But it makes sense with the show, no spoilers. So, but it'll be interesting.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see the reaction of people. To see just
they'll be like, "Where's so and so?" And we'll be like, and just look really sad.
Yeah.
Has there been any particular cosplay that you guys have done that got a bigger reaction from the people at the convention than you guys maybe expected initially?
Dad Soldier 76.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I knew it was going to be, like, fun, and it was going to be silly, and it was going to be fun to wear, but the amount of people who were just like, oh my god, like, it's Dad 76, I was just like, it was super funny, and I had a great time wearing it, because people, like, I had all the divas running up being like, Dad! I was like, oh god! Like, it was so weird and slightly ridiculous, but, like, it was so much fun, and like, I didn't expect that kind of reaction. Like, I knew it was going to be, like, a joke, and I was doing it as a joke because there's all the fan art of Soldier 76 being, over Dad and all that stuff. And so I did, like, this whole, like, morning, Dad 76, where I had a bathrobe with, like, and it was like the jacket. Like, I had a huge 76 on the back in the same design. I had a little small one on the front, like the... like, how, like, most, like, polo things or things like that have the little emblem on the... So I had a little 76 there, too. I had, like, these, like, sweatpants shorts I was wearing, and I had dad sandals, like, the strap dad sandals.
The word.
And then I was also wearing socks with them, but they were also Overwatch socks. And then I walked around with a cup of... with a coffee mug that said #1 Dad on it, and I had all my, like, my business cards in there. And I just walked around the con that way, and it was super funny.
And for yourself, Liz, is there any particular costume that you've done that you maybe thought won't get as big of a reaction, but ended up getting a huge reaction?
I cosplayed a meme a little while ago. I don't know if it reached you guys across the pond, but the Ugandan Knuckles meme went around. It was like Knuckles the Hedgehog, or the echidna. Yeah, do you know the way? And yeah, I wore it to
it reached us. It
was pretty global. But I bought a kid's Knuckles costume and cut it into a crop top and wore the stupid headpiece, and then also wore like an anime schoolgirl skirt with it, and had a little like classroom whiteboard that said like "Dewey" with an arrow, and I'd hold it up and like show people Dewey.
Oh, you also like?
Oh yeah, I had the like a little bit like a nose paint, and I had like black circle lenses to make my eyes just look like really big and derpy. That was fun. I had a lot of fun with that costume because I just got to like derp with people all day, and like it was like the height of the meme. Like that con was like the meme had come out that week, and I was like, this is the only chance I'm gonna ever have to do this. Amazon Prime that shit, like got it done, put it on for the convention, and it did really well. And I was very happy about that. It is a dead meme now, and like it served its time and its purpose, and that's yeah.
I think the cosplay for me that got the biggest reaction, and it was so weird to me because I didn't think it would, was when I cosplayed as Elle from Death Note. And the reason why I say this is because I did it at
I actually stopped watching the show because Elle died. I was like, I can't handle it.
For me, it was really weird that it got such a big reaction because the convention that I went to was a really small one. It was like a small local one. And I didn't think it was going to get massive amounts of a reaction. I just thought, it's a small con, nobody's going to hardly know who I am, which in a sense is good because then I can get round the con and see what's there. I was so wrong. I had adults coming up to me and going, Elle! And I had like little kids running up to me and it's like, hi Elle! And I'm like, hi Hi.
Yeah, just like
Should've had
sitting just like this. Just
I know.
like...
Should have had someone like push you around on a roller chair and you're sitting in the L position the whole time.
The funny thing was, like, I was wearing, let me just grab them because they're here. I was wearing these shoes, and I had my back, like, hunched over 95% of the time, and I was carrying around a small replica of the Death Note just like this.
Yes.
Like, shuffling around. And there's a really cool picture of me with somebody who's cosplaying as Batman, and he couldn't get the handcuffs around my wrists because of the long sleeve t-shirt I was wearing.
Okay.
And I was like, here, I'll do it, and clicked on one for them. So it was fun. But the surprise reaction that I got from that was just the younger children knowing who Elle was, and I was like, am I mistaken, or is Death Note more aimed at teens / adults? It is like an anime where people die, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, who are these parents showing these?
Yes, but at the same time, I was glad that kids got who I was and was happy to see me and all the rest, so that was so much fun. Speaking about cons, there are many different cons that we can actually go to throughout the year. There's the big once-a-year ones, things like San Diego Comic-Con, E3, London Film and Comic-Con, etc., etc. But there is also your more local ones, which range from being really, really big to not as big and medium size, well, small even. Out of those two types of cons, which do you guys prefer going to more so than the other? If at all.
Yeah, unpopular opinion, I hate San Diego Comic-Con. I cannot stand it. Unless I am working, I don't want to be there.
Now.
It's like, the people, like, I like New York Comic-Con better. That's probably my favorite giant con. Because New York, everything's a spectacle. The people down the street, like, they'll catcall you, they'll, like, whatever, and, like, you know, shout at you, but they want you to just give them a show and then they're happy. Like, living in New York and, like, growing up there, like, if I didn't get catcalled walking down the street, I'd be like, oh man, I look like shit today. Like, so, like, it's something you just, like, learn to respect, and it's the same people, like, that's what they do. They sit outside all day, like, there's nothing much else to do when you're just sitting on the street in New York, so you, like, you know, interact with people, and that's fine, and it's part of the culture and the community of being in New York. That is not the case in San Diego necessarily, where people are just mean and creepy. I do not like it there. It is a bad place. Yeah, so I don't like San Diego Comic-Con. There's too many normies. I just want my nerds and weebs.
I think it's just because everybody knows about New York. I mean, not New York, but it's San Diego Comic-Con, so it's become this place where everybody goes, and it's just
there's no respect for what people are doing down there.
And it feels weird just because nobody knows what you are either.
Yeah,
like when you go to other cons, people who like you know, like, oh my god, L, you know, like, oh my god, you know, like this. People are just like, what are you wearing? And it's like, and you're wearing like the most obvious costume of like the most
Batman.
And it's like, so I mean, for me, I don't know. I like going just because it's something that I've done forever. But I almost don't even. I just like going out and walking around outside.
But they've made it very hard for that to happen.
Like, I don't even buy tickets in it. Like, I've never bought tickets because my brother is an animator, and so he used to always get like professional badges, and then he would get like guest passes. And so I usually would just get to go, but they don't give those out anymore. So like ever since I came back from the Air Force, I would just go and I would just hang around outside, and I would go in costume and I would interact with people. And like, for me, I just like going because I like people watching and I like seeing the costumes, and I like, you know, and it doesn't really necessarily bother me too much that like people don't know what I am or things like that. For me, it's more of just like the crowds. Like, there's just so many people.
Yeah, I like small cons.
And I can't move around.
Small cons are fun.
Yeah, small. I would agree. Like
Even like small cons and like when you don't know anybody are fun.
Yeah.
Because like it's fun when you know everyone there, but it's like even more fun if you just go to a small convention and you're just like surrounded by people you don't know who just like the same thing as you.
Yeah. And that's I think the draw to conventions in the first place is.
Last two Comic Cons I've done have been small cons, and I have to admit I love doing the small cons because you do get more time with people, you know, and you can actually stand there and ask them, well, how did you make this particular part of your costume, or what issues did you run into when making that particular costume? And they can explain, oh, well, this is how I got it, how I made it, blah, 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 blah. Whereas I always feel at the larger cons, you're not getting that opportunity. Like the instance that I told you about with my friend who was cosplaying as Spike, I only really got to go up to her and she, like, motioned to hug her, and she's like, oh, I don't really want to, like, waste anything that you're wearing. And then after I hugged her, that was it, but that hug only lasted like a second, you know, because the larger cons I always feel they suffer from, and anybody who's watching this from New York, please don't take it personally, but they suffer from what I like to call a New York minute. You know, it's like, hi, how are you? Bye.
Yeah.
That is your full interaction kind of thing.
Or they like walk up,
so
like
sad.
take a picture, and then they run away from you, and it's like, but I wanted to talk to you. But
don't you want my handle? No.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, one of our friends is coming over. We might have to like wrap it up just a little bit sooner if it's okay.
We'll keep pushing on. So, from my next section of questions I have for you is, when you guys have been at these events, what is the one thing that you're most excited for, and the one thing that you either kind of do or sort of used to find the most nerve-wracking?
Well, I think it's different. Like, because for me, I love just seeing people and fans, and I'm like, it's funny because like I'm a hermit a lot of the time, but when I go places, I open up. But like, it's just getting me out places. But that's my favorite thing, is just I love interacting with people. I love, you know, like my first con when somebody was like, oh my god, or like after cosplaying, like actually really getting into it and building an Instagram and stuff and going to a con, and someone being like, oh my god, Alex Drastal, like I follow you on Instagram, and I'm sitting there like, like I didn't know what to do. Like it never happened to me before. Like I was like, hi, and like I found them later, and I'm like, I was not like. They were like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, like, I didn't mean to, like, disturb you. I was like, no, I just didn't know what to do. Like, this has never happened to me before. You're the first person. Like,
I find it...
Like, not so bad, but that's definitely my favorite part, is just being around.
A similar situation that I've had to that was when somebody said to me, oh my god, I follow you on YouTube. And I'm like, how do you follow somebody on YouTube?
Like, you're a subscriber.
Yeah. And it was such a weird interaction, because I was like, okay, you follow me on YouTube. Okay. Good. Do you like the content I'm providing at this particular time? You know? Okay, so my next question for you, in terms, well, do you guys have anything that's for kind of like nerve-wracking? Because I know a lot of cosplayers always say, well, debuting a new cosplay is always really nerve-wracking. Do you guys have a similar stance on that?
For me, I just have a ton of social anxiety, so like I seem like a really, really outgoing person on the internet, and then like in person, I'm just like, hi, like yes, please, like I'm very excited to see you, but like I just get very nervous in big crowds, so that's definitely something that I struggle with. Because like growing up, it's weird, like I'm an introverted extrovert. Like I love performing, I love being on a stage like 50 feet away from people,
yeah,
but expressing myself to them and giving my all to them, but from like 10 feet away. So
the funny thing was, I was saying to Alex, is we were all getting kind of like set up, I'm just sitting here like doing some like work as well as like singing away to myself. I used to actually sing professionally as part of a theatre group, and
Yeah.
I totally get that. Like, I totally get I'm okay with singing to people as long as they're quite a far distance away from me while I'm on stage.
Yeah,
That
that's
doesn't
the
bother me.
problem, like performing in front of like thousands of people or live streaming or like doing anything like that. But if it's like a close circle of like I am not the person at like the party who's gonna go get in the middle of the circle of people and dance. That's not me. Put me like 50 feet away on a stage, I will do all the choreography perfectly. But like, I don't know. That's something that is like definitely nerve-wracking for me. Is having to perform, like, I don't mind improv even, but just like having to be on and perform in front of people in close quarters, I suppose, is my. And also, like, it's nerve-wracking to especially be in a big costume and be like, I worked so hard on this, please nobody bump into me.
That's
So the next set of questions for you guys, before we start talking about props real quick, is what kind of advice would you give to people who are going to these types of events, the big ones, the small ones, and medium-sized ones, all of them in between? Is there any tips, hints, or advice you would give to them?
Bring a friend and bring a bag with everything that you need to fix your costume if it breaks.
Awesome.
And have a friend to hold that bag if you're in costume.
Make sure, in other words, make sure your friend is your Sherpa.
Yes.
Stack things on them.
What is it? What's the term?
A second.
No, the thing you told me.
A bag bitch.
No, not that. The nice term for it. What was
Handler Chan.
Handler Chan, yes. have a handler Chan.
Yeah.
No, I think for me it's like I would just say if you're cosplaying, just talk to as many people as you can. Like, don't. And I know that's hard for people who are like nervous or things like that, but like that's how like you meet people, you make friends, you meet connections. Like if you're trying to build an Instagram, like if you don't talk to people, no one's gonna know who you are.
Do you know the funny thing? Like, I mentioned that I've been doing this for 2 years now. It's one of the things that I had a real issue with was reaching out to people and like saying, "Hey, would you maybe mind talking about cosplay?" Since then, it's like, you want to talk about cosplay?
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't have to, but, you know.
It's funny, like, for me, like, I always describe it as, like, I'm awful at, like, starting conversations with people I don't know. So I've always described myself as, like, this is why I wear big, intricate costumes, and I like Halloween, and I like going to parties, and I like doing things like that.
Because you have a physical icebreaker.
Because I have a physical icebreaker, or I can, like, I'm literally just a peacock of a man. Like, I'm gonna wear this big fancy thing. I'm gonna wear
talk to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear this big fancy thing so that you come talk to me, so I don't have to talk to you first. Like, so I'm awkward.
So I just kind of like showed off something there that I shouldn't, because we're going to move on to talking about props.
I didn't see any.
Props can be the best thing for a cosplayer or the worst nightmare of a cosplayer. Oftentimes it is the latter, because I've known some cosplayers who have threatened horrible fiery death on their props. And I do actually have such a prop here that I have threatened with fiery death, and it is my wonderful Jack-in-the-Box. So this is a completely con-friendly Jack-in-the-Box that is all made from various parts, and well, obviously I think you know what it comes from, or which cosplay it's for. It's totally for real. Totally for real. But this is a little guy that took me forever to make and totally drove me mad in the process of making it. But ever since having it, people have been like, I love your prop, can I hold it, can I touch it? And I'm like, you can touch it from 30 feet away.
Yeah.
Yeah? 30 feet away.
Yeah.
But this little guy is just so much fun, and I love having him, and I really love having him for photo shoots and such like when I'm doing Harley. Is there any particular prop that you guys have done that you made that maybe drove you crazy while in the making process, maybe you ended up speaking to it like it was going to answer you back, like I did with this guy? Or is there any prop that you just completely lost it with that ended up turning out amazing?
I have one that I like wanted to destroy. I actually really like all my props. They have all served me well.
A lot of times, like as we were saying, like I'll do trades with other cosplayers because like I can make props and I do, but that's usually my focus when I cosplay is on the costume, not necessarily the prop. So I'll trade with people, be like, hey, I'll make your costume for this thing if you make my prop for this thing. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of respect for that prop and the time that I didn't have to spend making it. So, but yeah, and then vice versa with the other cosplayers and like the costumes that I'll make for them.
So my next question for you guys is, what has cosplay opened up for you guys away from being the cosplayers that you are? Like, is there anything in particular that cosplay has literally given you?
Oh, well,
I mean, like
for a living.
Yeah. It's my full-time job. It commissions, just experiences, getting to travel, getting to work for companies, and you know, cosplay can only, I won't say it can only go so high, but you know, there's a ceiling, I think, in a cool way, where it's like, if I can be hired by the thing to that I want to cosplay anyway, to make the thing for them, like that's the goal. That's for senpai to notice you and for them to recognize like your work and say like, yes, I agree with everything you're doing. Like, we want you to make the costumes to like bring this to life for us. And like that's really where I get the most joy out of it, is getting to take things, because I don't like doing like recreations of movie costumes as much as I like taking things from animes, from comics, and getting to put my own ideas and inspiration onto them and say, this is what I think it would be in real life, and then to have like the company that is responsible for that thing to be like, yes, we agree, like that is the best feeling.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's just starting to happen more and more now, so it's very exciting.
Awesome. And yourself, Alex, is there anything that cosplay has opened up for you that you didn't see coming at all by chance?
I knew it was gonna help like my career, like, you know, because I do acting and stuff like that, and I might want to do like maybe some modeling and things. But and for sure it helps with that because all the industries are intertwined. So meeting people and stuff. But I think the biggest one that is just a surprise is just being, and it's kind of just, it's nice, and it's feeling like an inspiration to other people. And I think that's the coolest thing that it's brought to like my life, is just feeling like, and it blows my mind because in my mind I'm just like a grown man playing dress up, and so when people are like they freak out, and it's just like, and they see you as so much more, and the things that you do and the things that you say mean something to them, and it's not only like very flattering, but it's also just like, it drives you to do better and makes you want to, you know, because you don't want to let those people down, and it's just a great feeling, and I really like it, and I want to like, you know, do my best, not just because for me now, but it's like I want to do my best because I want to make those people happy, and that's, I think, the most surprising thing it's brought to my life.
So my next question for you is what you guys are going to be next. So who you guys are going to be at your next Comic-Con event, somebody that you're working on that we might see somewhere else like a couple of months from now in 2018, and somebody that you're thinking about for the future, so maybe late 2018, early 2019. So Alex, we'll start with you. Who will you be at your next Comic-Con event? Well,
I'm not really doing anything necessarily new at AX. Mm-hmm. The next thing I'll be wearing is the Soldier 76 like Fallout mashup that I did just last week. But the next new costume, because we're doing this isn't going to be at the con, it's like right before. is I'm going to be doing Zoro from One Piece, and we have a whole One Piece group, and we're going to do a shoot together on July 4th, right before AX. So that'll be like the very, very next. And I think we're gonna do it in the morning, and then we're all gonna go pick up our tickets, still in costume. So I guess technically I will be wearing it at the con.
Yeah, on day 0.
So, yeah. I'll be wearing it on day 0.
Awesome.
That's definitely the newest one I will be doing. Ones I want to do in the near future, I definitely want to do. I want to do an All Might, especially after that the last few episodes. It's just he's the best. I want to make an All for One, just because. Once not many people have done him, and I'm not sure how many people will. But it's kind of just it'd be a cool thing to do All for One with the All Mights and get cool photos with, like fight scenes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch I want to do down the line is I actually want to do a bunch of like Fairly Odd Parents cosplays. I really, with a friend of mine, I really want to do, and this might be one, the later one, is I really want to do, a realistic Crimson Chin and Boy Chin Wonder cosplay. Do Crimson Chin and Cleft. And, but make it, the way that people make, the Batmans nowadays, with, the actual, armor on the suit and stuff like that, and just make it look like if Crimson Chin was an actual, legit, real hero. And, make it look super badass, but it's also the Crimson Chin, so it's also funny and silly at the same time.
And Liz, yourself, who are you going to be at your next con, and who's somebody that you're currently working on, and one person that you're thinking of for the future, or character?
My only new cosplay for Anime Expo is going to be Morgan Le Fay from the Fate series. It's in a big Fate group for Saturday. That's the only new one. I also, oh god, there's so many. Possibly, it's kind of up in the air still as to whether or not I can get it done. I'll maybe get done either Tharja from Fire Emblem or Jeanne d'Arc from Fate, from Apocrypha, for another group on Sunday. We'll see. That's kind of a... That's a maybe. That's a definite maybe on that one. And then after that, I know in August, we want to do a lot of Fairly Odd Parents cosplays. We also want to do the Tooth Fairy and Jorgen Mudstrangle together as a couple's cosplay, which will be really fun. And then I just started getting into Steven Universe cosplay, and I'm really excited to kind of delve into that. I want to do Sapphire is the first one, so I want to make another ball gown. So I'm in the mood for that.
I think I'm going to actually do Inside Cosplay first and tell the guys one of the costumes I'm hoping to get done for November of this year. I'm actually hoping to get a gender-bent black siren from the Arrow TV show done, because Katie Cassidy is actually one of my favourite actresses, and I just loved the costume that she was wearing when they brought her back as Black Siren, and I was like, I've always really wanted to do a bad version of Black Canary.
Yeah.
So here is the perfect opportunity, and if I can put together the costume, hopefully it will look really amazing. But a lot of people have been requesting me to do either Max from Life is Strange or Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon. And I'm like, Hiccup's a really interesting one. Pardon?
You make a great Hiccup.
Well, it's a really interesting one because when I asked them, a friend, why did you suggest Hiccup? They're like, you're very neurotic like him. And I'm like, I can totally see that. I mean, I knew that was an insult, but I was like, I can totally see where you're coming from. I'm just not even going to deny it. Okay, so my last question for you guys is, what advice would you give to somebody who is new to cosplay but doesn't know quite where to start?
On the count of 3, push out the ball. Ready?
Oh god.
1, 2, 3. Just do it! That is
That's the best advice, because for the longest time, it was why I didn't really do it, was because I was like, is it going to be too hard? I don't know how to work with foam. I can't, will I be good at it? And you kind of defeat yourself like before you even try. And so my best advice is just try. Like just do it.
And
like talk to people. It's like the stupidest, simplest advice, but it works.
And if you're thinking like you don't know what to do, pick something you really like, but not the thing you like the most.
Because you don't want to screw up the thing. That
you don't want to like feel bad about not doing your favorite thing in the world justice. But pick another thing that you like. Like don't cosplay something you don't like.
Awesome.
Ever. It's terrible. You hate every moment.
With that being said, guys, there is Liz and Alex. Do you see it down there? There's like a comment section. It's just like down there. Wow. If you guys have any questions for either myself, Liz, or Alex, put it down in the comment section below, and we will do our very best to answer your questions. However, if you cannot get enough of me and all these wonderful cosplayers that I've been interviewing, there is a playlist, so go and click on that playlist and check out as many other interviews that you want to. There's ones from Kobe Kicks, Alpha Betty, Titan Cosplay, the aforementioned Cosmic Motion Cosplay, and Chris Villain, and many, many more, guys. And hopefully we will not be stopping anytime soon. Hopefully. But if you do wish to get a hold of myself, because there's maybe like a question you want to ask that you don't want to necessarily put on a comment section down there, you can get a hold of me at this lovely little website called iGameOnline.net, where we do have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, guys. So go and click on them and see what other shows that we've got going. I mentioned earlier about our tabletop session that's based in the world of the Lord of the Rings. That is under the MERP section. We do also have a Dragonland session that is ongoing, and you can catch live every Monday night on the wonderful Fayaz's Twitch channel. Also, check out the other videos I've got on my channel, where there's multiple more things, like we go behind the mask, or the wonderful section where I get to speak to people who worked with the amazing Stan Lee on a little TV show called Who Wants to Be a Superhero, as well as all the amazing amazing gaming videos I do. Go and check them out and see what amazing things or crazy things I'm getting up to. But in the meantime, if there is an actual question that you'd like to ask either Alex or Elizabeth, I'm sure one of the two of them is going to give us an amazing place that we can go to and ask them a question. And then don't worry if you miss it, guys, because there will be a link in the description of this video. So Liz, Alex, where can we get a hold of you guys if we have any further questions about cosplay?
I answer all of my DMs, so if you want to message me...
Shots fired. Okay.
Hey, you have a lot more than I do. You can find me on Instagram at Alex Drastal. And it's AlexDrastal. And yeah, feel free to message me about anything, any questions, or like sometimes if you're just like, I want to talk to this person, if I have time, I will, and I usually do. I'm usually not doing too much, so. Unless I'm knee-deep in some cosplay, I'm like, I'll talk to people.
And for yourself, Liz, is there anywhere that we can contact you if we have any further questions?
For sure, and that's also on my Instagram, at Elizabeth Rage. Just mention that you found me from this awesome interview, and I'll be sure to answer. That's Elizabeth, how you spell it, and then Rage, how you spell it, one word. And then also have a podcast that is we have a tabletop D&D game.
If you guys want to listen to that.
If you do want more of that kind of content, we also have a D&D podcast called Dances with Dice, and you can find that shouted out in our stories every Tuesday. So
awesome. So with that being said, guys, I'd like to take the time to thank both Alex and Liz for taking the time out of their very busy schedule and spending it with us here on Inside Cosplay. Unfortunately though, guys, that is all the time we have, and we'll be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.